a little bit out. We are talking of 8 to 9 rupees as compared to 4 to 5 rupees in terms of generation. This is an illustration. I just wanted to show you this, where we've done a study of Mumbai and what could be the rooftop potential for the city of Mumbai. And we've looked at data from each of these land use patterns and then built up what is the rooftop area. And you can see that a significant proportion of the morning load can actually be met from the, you can see this load curve on top and the PV potential. Of course, that will give about 18 to 19% of the total energy of the city. Similarly, for instance, for solar water heaters, we've estimated for the city of Pune, and you can see that some portion of the morning peak can be met from the solar water heaters, and a lot of it is already happening in terms of diffusion. This is a group of our students, along with Rachna Sansad, IIT Bombay and Rachna Sansad students, built a zero energy building, used the concepts. We use basically simulation and merge the traditional Vastu as well as simulation, use those features that were consistent with modern simulations, and then build a 680 square foot house, reduce the load, and then use PV on top. And this is the group of students built. This is the house that was built in Vasai. It is being rebuilt in the IIT campus now. So it's quite possible, essentially, if we focus on the interesting thing that you see is if you look at the stock, and the stock is growing, if you look forward into 2035, large portion of the buildings that are going to exist in 2030 or 2035 haven't yet been built. So that's a very significant opportunity. So if you focus on the new stock and you make them, you actually design them and make them energy efficient and then use them as net zero buildings, you can see that the projected requirement can be significantly reduced for the electricity segment. So essentially, just to show you the IIT Bombay, you can have a grid. In the IIT Bombay grid now, we have 1 megawatt of PV, 80 to 100 kilowatts on 10 buildings integrated into our grid. In addition to that, we can look at modifying the load profile by looking at efficiency. This is the load profile of our main building. And you can see the lower curve. That is what we could get through energy efficiency and control. So essentially, the focus is that when we talk of energy, we are really not interested in energy per se. Today in this auditorium, you don't care how many kilowatt hour is being used. What you care for is the comfort condition. What you care for is the illumination. So if I can give you that end use by making it more efficient, then it makes a lot of sense. However, the way things are structured, there is no level playing field for efficiency. So the whole focus is more on increasing the supply. There are also other innovative things which have been done. For instance, the captive generation base has been used in Pune to build a system where they could mitigate load shedding. When we look at the energy systems of the future, as we have more and more of renewables, you are going to have more of supply variability apart from demand variability. So we will need to have the ability to adjust and have storage in a minute-wide interval, at half an hourly and seasonal intervals. And then there are a large number of storage technologies, and to bring them online intelligently will be another issue. So just to quickly summarize the points that I want to make. First, we need to focus on new building stock, green, passive, net zero buildings. This has the potential to transform cities. They're likely to have increased renewable share. We need to ensure a level playing field for efficiency and demand side management and demand response. We need to have intelligence or smartness in forecasting supply and demand variability, in scheduling, deferring loads and bringing storage online, hybridization, resilience and flexibility of grid. In all of this, there are possible innovative systems and solutions, and this will link with transport and water. And finally, as was mentioned initially, we need to ensure that this electricity finally is also affordable. Otherwise, we may come up with this situation where you have a green building, but the green building doesn't realize that it doesn't need the person anymore because he can't afford that electricity. So, thank you.
Well, we have been running considerably behind time. So I think we'll just take just one or two questions from the audience. Yes.
See, one of the issues that he raised, Dr. Lal raised, was about using land. Like the Chinese have used land banks to. The Chinese have used land banks to grow the infrastructure in their cities. A similar urban, I've designed something called the Mumbai Mega Project. It's essentially using land banks in cities to finance infrastructure in the villages. Now, Maharashtra, the water tables have fallen by almost 600 to 800 feet. So what I've done is I've designed a project to move around 6 lakh crores out of redeveloping Mumbai in 24 projects to develop 60,000 check dams in Maharashtra, build a ring road around Maharashtra. There are lots of things within the project, but this is the way we can do it, using public sector land banks like the port trust, for instance, building artificial islands offshore. You can generate a huge amount of money because Mumbai has, the government of Maharashtra has a debt of 3,50,000 crores. You cannot do anything under this. So can that work? I want to ask Dr. Lal this question.
What is your name?
Ashish Puntambekar.
Ashish?
Puntambekar.
No, I think, the point is an important one. That on paper, it should be eminently feasible to unlock some of the value of the land that government actually owns and redeploy it. I had actually done a back of the envelope estimate of government land which is recorded, ownership is recorded. What is its market value today? It runs into trillions of dollars actually. A couple of $1 trillion is not too off the mark, even if you take very conservative estimates. The problem is it's a mindset and a cultural issue. I made the point about NTPC. Why can't NTPC sell some of its operating assets? I have raised this issue with many people in government, and the response I get is that once a government agency owns an asset, it's very difficult for them to get rid of it.
Also, there's one more thing. If this land is in Mumbai, and if that is going to be used after sale in some other remote part of Maharashtra, I don't think it's going to go down very well for the citizens of Mumbai. This is also going to...
project actually releases close to 18 lakh crores. Only 6 lakh crores gets moved to
No, that may be the case, but even then, why? When you give autonomy to almost each city, then it has to remain within that city. Otherwise, why should those people...
See, 90% of the politicians in the Vidhan Sabha come from outside Mumbai. That is why it will happen.
See, then there are other issues.
Yeah.
70% of the water you consume is consumed at the villages where your food is made. It's only 5-6% that the city consumes. So there are many such interlinkages. At the same time, just because the man comes from Vidhan Sabha, therefore he gets a share of Bombay property taxes. Any other question? Yes?
My question is again to Dr. Rajiv Lal. Sir, we are making in India a solid waste management project under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan for a smart city. Would IDFC be willing to look to fund it?
No, it's all right. You can conduct some business. Rajiv here.
So the point I'm trying to make is, what is IDFC's take on funding solid waste management projects which have been in a typical PPP limbo over the last 10 years?
We are very happy to look at it and examine it. Our experience in solid waste management projects has not been very good. But, every project is different, so we should look at it seriously. We have to try and make these things work. So we at least have to roll up our sleeves and take a serious look at it.
I think that brings us to the end of this session. It has been a very wonderful session which has identified some of the serious problems of both mindset and government institution that make it difficult for us to move on. And that's precisely the reason why the Prime Minister wants us to think of smart cities and urbanization. And therefore, I think we have now started in each panelist in his own way, and including has looked at urbanization in a very slightly different and added a dimension to what would be considered as smart. And I think this will be all part of the reports that the rapporteur will create about today's meetings, and we'll be going back into feeding to Mr. Venkaiah Naidu as well as to Mr. Devendra Fadnavis for their understanding of what they can do with this knowledge. Anyway, there's also one big dimension we forget, that the city, the moment you talk of a city by its definition is smarter. And this is said by nobody better than Karl Marx, who cursed the bourgeoisie, but said, look at the wonderful cities they have built and relieve the urban and rural folk of their boredom and awkwardness. So by very definition, the city is smart. And now making it smarter is in a very modern context.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. It was well said. A word of applause for all the dignitaries. I would also, due to the shortage of time, I would request those who have questions. We have a board kept on at the outside of this auditorium. You can pose your questions there, and this will be addressed to the required dignitaries. The lunch is going to be served in the terrace. I thank you on behalf of Vigyan Bharati to all the dignitaries and all the delegation. Thank you very much.